You are absolutely going to love this no-knead honey sourdough bread or roll recipe. It's not the easiest to make, but it is absolutely the best.
Welcome to Homemade Cooking in Texas. I'm Carolyn Gibson from Dogwood Gardens, where homemade cooking is surprisingly easy, healthier for you and your family, saves money, and tastes great. Come join me today as I share my favorite recipes, and I hope they will become your favorite recipes. And don't forget, like and subscribe to my channel. Now this is my husband's very favorite bread that I make. It's honey sourdough bread. Now it's not what you think of sourdough, because this is sweet. Now it starts with a starter. Now I don't keep the starter going. I just make it once and throw out what I don't need. I could almost compare this to maybe Hawaiian bread. That's the closest thing I can compare it to. Okay, now this is a recipe for my honey sourdough bread starter. Now traditionally sourdough starters were made up once, you took out a cup, make your bread, you feed it and put it back in the refrigerator, use it again in 3 to 5 days and start the whole process over again. And you can certainly do that if you want to, but I don't have the time to keep it going. Once I've made this bread recipe, I won't probably make it for a while. So I just make my starter to begin with and just plan on using it. Now I'm starting out with a cup of lukewarm water. Lukewarm water is between 100 and 110. And I'm just using this funnel just because it keeps everything going. And then I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast. Now, if you're going to be making much bread, you need to just go ahead and buy it in the jar. So I've got my tablespoon of yeast. And then I'm putting in 3 tablespoons of instant potatoes. Now it can be just any brand you like. And then for any starter you have to have sugar. So I'm going to add my sugar, get it going in there. This is a 3/4 cup of sugar. And I'm just going to kind of mix it up real good. A canning jar is just perfect for this stuff. Now I'm not going to leave this canning jar lid on. I just did that to mix it up. But instead, you would either cover this with a cloth, a cheesecloth. Now I happen to have these lids for making sprouts. So I'm just going to put that on there. And what that really does is just keep your gnats and your flies and any other kind of bugs to get in it, because it's going to be sitting out all day long, at least 8 to 12 hours. And then you're going to put it in the refrigerator. I'm going to start out with 1½ cups of warm water. Let me test that temperature. It needs to be between 105, not any more than 110, 105 would be perfect. Okay, this is just a tad over 100 degrees, so it's perfect. I'm going to pour it in my bowl here. I'm going to mix in 1/2 cup of honey. It's the honey part of the recipe. I have 1 cup of starter. It already has that sourdough smell. And now I'm using 1/2 cup of melted coconut oil. You could use melted butter, you could use whatever your favorite vegetable oil is, except olive oil. Olive oil simply would not work in this recipe. Just kind of give that a little stir now. Now I'm adding 6 cups of bread flour. Now it has to be bread flour. It cannot be all-purpose. I'm also going to need a teaspoon of salt. Now you really need to put your liquids in the bowl first and then your flour so everything will incorporate when you go to use the mixer. Now if you were young enough and strong enough, you could mix this all by hand, but I'm 70 years old and it's just a little hard for me to do that. Okay, I'm going to put it in my KitchenAid. Put the splash guard on it. Now I have greased a really large bowl to put this in when I get it out of the mixer. I'm going to start it on one, just to kind of get it going. Then I'm going to crank it up to 2 because on the directions for this KitchenAid it says when you're using the dough hook not to go more than the number 2. Okay, let's see how well this mixes up. Okay, I can see this is mixed. It did not take long at all. I'm ready to open this up. Kind of get that off the bread hook. And I'm ready to put this into my bowl, to my greased bowl. See how well that KitchenAid just mixed all that up. Now I need to just go ahead and I've got some more melted coconut oil. Of course this can be melted butter for you, whatever your favorite oil is. And I'm just going to cover this really good with oil. Now all I need is to put the lid on this and I'm going to let it set overnight. And then in the morning we'll come back and give it a look. Okay, now you can see where I've let my dough rise. And now I'm ready to knead it and shape it into my loaves and then let it set overnight once more. So I have put parchment paper down here on my table, and a secret to keeping that down is to put a little water on your table to keep the parchment paper from rolling up. We'll get some flour on here. See a little bit of that coconut oil is kind of hardened up. It's kind of cooled down. So I just want to knead it a little bit until it's not so sticky, so that I can work with it. And kneading is basically just folding your dough over and pushing. Tomorrow we'll be making some honey butter to go with this, which is just really tops it off and makes it perfect. Okay, I've kind of kneaded that enough. And I want to get it kind of rolled out where I can divide it into 3 equal parts. So let's see if I can kind of figure what 3 is. set that aside. I'm going to roll this little one up again. Now I've got a loaf pan that I already have greased. I'm ready to put that in there. It's going to be seam side down. I'm just going to set it right in there. Now I also would like to make some rolls. So I'm going to, I think that's a little bit bigger than that one. I'm kind of even that out. So I'm just going to make this into 12 equal balls. So I'll just kind of set this one aside. Okay. I've already got this pan, and it has been greased all over.
Brush the bread in rows with more oil or butter, cover with wax paper, and let set overnight.
Okay, now you can see our bread has risen overnight. Now the rows had already raised and I already put them in the oven. So it's been about 25 minutes and I'm ready to take them out and show you how golden brown and wonderful they look. As you start making bread and you're thinking, is it really done? Is it overdone? When bread, and they tell you to tap it if it sounds hollow, but how do you know what hollow sounds like? The only true method is to use a thermometer, and 180 degrees is when it is done. I'm ready to put my bread back in the oven, and this is going to bake for about 40 minutes. Okay, now we've let this bread completely cool and we've cut it. Of course you need a bread knife. This recipe for honey sourdough bread, you just can't believe how good it is. It is good even cold. But to even make it better, top it with this honey butter, and you just out of this world. This absolutely tastes great. Can't believe it.
Okay, just look in the description bar and I'll have a link to my homemade honey butter. And if you think the honey sourdough bread was good, you can't believe the honey sourdough cinnamon rolls. Just look in the description bar for my recipe for the very best cinnamon rolls you've ever tasted. Now, if you want to keep this starter going, it's just as simple as you mix 3/4 cups of sugar, 3 tablespoons of instant potatoes, and 1 cup of warm water together. You mix it together, then you add to your starter. You let it stand at room temperature all day or night. You take out 1 cup to make bread, give to a friend, or throw it away. And you want to keep this in the refrigerator for 3 to 5 days and feed again. Thank you so much for joining me today at Homemade Cooking in Texas. These are my favorite recipes and I hope they will become yours. Now if you enjoy these recipes, please like and subscribe so you can see more of these type recipes. We have been making a full-time living here on our organic farm since 1991. We need your support to continue our small family farm by liking and subscribing to our channel. Thank you so much.